What if I told you that the next 60 seconds could change the way you wake up for the rest of your life? Stay with me until the end, because the last declaration on this list is the one that most people skip, and it's the one that actually makes everything else work. If you've ever felt stuck, tired, or like life is just happening to you instead of for you, this is the video that flips that switch. Let's get into it. Here is the first thing you need to say to yourself the moment you open your eyes. I decide how I react to whatever today throws at me. Understand something right away. You cannot control traffic, the weather, your boss's mood, or what strangers say about you online. None of that is yours to command. But there is one thing that always belongs to you, and that is your reaction. Between the moment something happens and the moment you respond, there is a tiny gap. Inside that gap lives your power. Most people never even notice it exists. They get triggered and they explode or they shut down, running purely on autopilot. But the people who actually build the life they want have trained themselves to pause inside that gap and ask one question: what response actually moves me forward? When you claim that gap every single morning, you stop being a passenger in your own story. That brings us to the second declaration. My life and my happiness are on me, nobody else. Responsibility sounds heavy, but flip it around and it's actually the biggest gift you can give yourself, because it means you're not waiting on anyone. Watch how most people operate. They blame their childhood, their partner, their manager, the economy, even the weather for why their life looks the way it does. And while they're busy pointing fingers, their days keep slipping by. The second you own your life fully, the blaming stops. You stop waiting for rescue and you start building. Third, tell yourself this: what happened to me before does not decide what happens next. So many people carry their old failures around like a life sentence. They say things like, I'm just bad with money, or I've never been disciplined, as if that's carved in stone. It isn't. Your history is not your future unless you keep renting its space in your head. Every morning is a blank page. The version of you from last year or even yesterday doesn't get a vote in who you become today. That naturally leads into the fourth truth. I am a work in progress, and I'm improving on purpose. Getting older doesn't automatically make you better, it just makes you older. Real growth takes intention. When you decide every morning that you're actively developing, mistakes stop being embarrassing and start being useful. Setbacks stop being endings and start being set up for the comeback. You stop treating yourself like a finished product and start treating yourself like a project worth investing in. Fifth, remind yourself, opportunity favors the person who's ready for it. Chances don't knock politely and wait. They pass by constantly, but only the prepared person actually notices and grabs one. People love to complain that they never get a break, when really breaks are showing up all the time. They're just not positioned to see them. When you commit to staying sharp, curious, and ready, you're not hoping for luck, you're manufacturing it. Preparation meeting opportunity is the entire definition of luck. Sixth, declare this: learning about myself and the world stays at the top of my list. In a world that reinvents itself every few years, the skills that got you here won't be the ones that get you to the next level. What you know right now has an expiration date if you stop refreshing it. The moment you leave a classroom is not the end of your education, it's the real beginning of it. Read more than feels comfortable. Ask more questions than feels natural. Seek out people who know more than you and let that be uncomfortable, because that discomfort is where growth actually lives. Seventh, say it out loud: I look for the fix, not the flaw. This one single shift separates people who build things from people who just complain about things. Most minds are wired to hunt for what's broken. They talk about the problem, replay the problem, stress about the problem, and somehow the problem just keeps growing. Flip that switch and ask a different question. Instead of why is this happening to me, ask, what do I do next? That one change in phrasing rewires how you move through an entire day. Eighth, Tell yourself, I'm building something that actually matters. This is about direction, not just motion. Most people are busy, but busy doesn't mean building. They're reacting to emails, scrolling, following the crowd, but at the end of the year, they can't point to anything they actually created. When you decide every morning that your life is under construction towards something meaningful, suddenly your choices carry weight. You stop wasting hours on things that don't move you anywhere. Ninth, hold both of these at once. I appreciate what I already have while I chase what I still want. Gratitude without ambition turns into complacency. Ambition without gratitude turns into misery, because you're never satisfied no matter what you achieve. The people who actually stay both happy and hungry have figured out how to do both at the same time. They're content with today and still working for tomorrow. And now, the 10th and final one, the one I promised you at the start, the one that ties every single other declaration together. Today, I get to practice becoming who I'm actually capable of being. This is not about some far-off, perfect version of yourself sitting on a pedestal somewhere. It's about the choice sitting in front of you right now, in this exact conversation, this exact task, this exact moment. Every hard conversation becomes practice for patience. Every difficult project becomes practice for persistence. Every setback becomes a rep for resilience. You don't have to wait for some future moment to become that person. You get to practice today. Now, here's why all 10 of these work together instead of separately. When you take ownership of your reactions, you build your power. When you take responsibility for your life, you activate that power. When you release your past, you free that power to actually move. When you commit to growth, you sharpen it. When you stay ready, you position it. When you keep learning, you expand it. When you hunt for solutions, you aim it. When you build with purpose, you use it well. When you hold gratitude and ambition together, you fuel it sustainably. And when you show up each day ready to practice becoming, you finally put that power to work. None of this is magic. Saying these words one time on one random Tuesday will do absolutely nothing for you. This only works as a ritual. It has to become as automatic as brushing your teeth. Your brain believes what you repeat, not what you say once and forget. And I'll warn you now, the first few mornings you try this, some voice in your head is going to say, this is pointless, this is cheesy, this isn't going to change anything. That voice is just your old programming trying to protect its territory. Ignore it and keep going anyway, because your emotions follow your actions, not the other way around. You don't need to feel confident to act confident. Act first, and the feeling catches up later. Here's your challenge starting tomorrow. Say these 10 things out loud before you touch your phone. Not in your head, out loud, with your actual voice, like you mean it. Your future doesn't belong to the version of you who keeps hoping things magically improve. It belongs to the version of you who decided to change the very first conversation of the day, the one you have with yourself. That decision starts the second you wake up tomorrow. Let me walk you through what an actual morning looks like once you start living this out. You wake up, and instead of grabbing your phone and letting the first 15 minutes of your day be dictated by notifications, emails, and other people's opinions, you sit up and you speak. You say, today I decide how I react. You say it slow enough to actually feel it land. Then you move to the next one. My life and my happiness are on me. You're not mumbling these under your breath half asleep. You're saying them like a person who's actually taking their own life seriously for the first time. Think about how differently your day unfolds when it starts this way compared to the default. The default is scrolling through other people's highlight reels before your feet even hit the floor, absorbing comparison and anxiety before you've had a single original thought of your own. The default is checking your phone and letting someone else's bad news or someone else's demands set the emotional temperature for your entire day. You didn't choose that, it just happened to you, the same way it happens to almost everyone, every single morning, without them ever questioning it. Now compare that to deciding, before the world gets a single word in, exactly who you're choosing to be today. That's not positive thinking as a gimmick. That's you taking the steering wheel back before anyone else gets the chance to grab it. And once you're not spending your first waking moments reacting to notifications, the rest of your day changes shape too, because the tone was set by you on purpose instead of set by whatever landed in your inbox first. If this hit home for you, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss what's coming next, and drop a like on this video. It genuinely helps this message reach more people who need to hear it today.